move on to the next question then. So the next question says, the Federal Reserve uses two definitions of the money supply, M1 and M2, because A, M2 satisfies the medium of exchange function of money, whereas M1 satisfies a store of value function. B, M2 is a narrow definition focused more on liquidity, whereas M1 is a broader definition of the money supply. And C, M1 is a narrow definition focused more on liquidity, whereas M2 is a broader definition of the money supply. So what we're really being asked for here is what is the what are the definitions of M1 and M2, and how are they distinguished? So first thing we have to know is which one's broader, right? And so the answer to that is M2. M1 is a more narrow definition of the money supply, and then M2 encompasses all the types of money that are included in M1 and more, right? So if you can think about, if we could draw this out, let's see if I can turn this on, right? So if we draw this out and we write this as, okay, 1 second. So if this is M2, maybe like this much would be considered M1, and then M2 would be the whole chunk, right? And so this is our two definitions of money supply. We obviously see that M1 is narrower. And the question becomes, what is the definition of M1, and what kinds of money are included in these two different definitions? And the answer to that is M1 includes things like cash, checking accounts, things that are basically money that is very liquid, money that you can quickly access and use. Whereas M2 is going to include all the M1 types of money and also include more long-term, harder to reach, less liquid types of money, such as savings accounts or certificates of deposits and stuff like that, right? So that's going to be the major difference between the two. So looking at the answer choices, if we know that M1 is more liquid, whereas M2 includes a range of liquid types of money, then we're looking at answer choice C being the best answer here, right? M1 is a narrow definition focused more on liquidity, whereas M2 is a broader definition of the money supply. So that's going to be our best answer there. And so let's take a look at the answer choice that the previous tutor gave. So our previous tutor says, in economics, the money supply is a concept which is widely used in macroeconomics that depicts a total flow of money and other instruments in the economy at a particular point in time. The money supply is mainly divided into four general types known as M0, M1, M2, and M3, which are divided on the base of liquidity of the instruments in each category. The categorization is in a way that the instruments present in M0 are more liquid than the M1, and M1 is more liquid than M2. So we can say that option C is the correct option. So that's a good answer. I think, there's nothing specifically wrong with that. M1, maybe we'll know that M1 and M2 are the most commonly noted definitions of the money supply, since those are the two that the Federal Reserve use. So M1 and M2 are the two common definitions of the money supply. So be sure to know those two well in particular. As noted in the answer to this question, M1 includes liquid forms of money, whereas M2 encompasses all of M1 and other less liquid types of money. And yeah, so otherwise the solution is correct. We're just a little bit of clarification, but we're pretty happy with what this previous tutor has written.